Political Big Three of the top stories. Everyone's talking about it, so let's get to it, shall we? MTV gets political as celebrities at the VMAs take shots at the president. It has Trump supporters calling for a boycott. Plus, Melania Trump has just announced her first big solo trip as First Lady. The destination sounds like a not-so-subtle message to her husband. Yes, she's going to visit Africa. And the president has just revealed the key to not losing security clearance. You just have to be nice to him. Joining me now is Michael Starr Hopkins, Democratic strategist and attorney, and Republican strategist Alice Stewart. Welcome to both of you. I am going to start at the VMAs because the language used was quite something. So let's dive right in with the hosts of the show and how they termed the President of the United States.
I'm looking at this like it's game day, people. But do not worry, because at this game, you guys are allowed to kneel. You can do whatever the hell you want. There's no old white man that can stop you. You never know what's going to happen at the VMAs. I mean, beefs pop off, bad language, people run to the bathroom and send out crazy tweets. It's basically like your typical day at the White House. In your face, Trump, suck it.
Okay, so Michael, I understand, youthful passion, and he had a very youthful audience, and young people don't much like Donald Trump when you take a look at all the polls, but the language?
Listen, I dare the Republicans to come out and criticize entertainers for the language that they use. The president has used some of the most vicious, inappropriate language of anyone across this country. And so, when it comes to entertainers like Kevin Hart standing up and talking about athletes that are being criticized for exercising their First Amendment right, for entertainers who are fighting back against child separation, that's exactly what we want our entertainers to do, to be leaders and to speak up. So, Republicans, they can boycott whatever they want, but we still have a president who is an embarrassment and uses language way worse than any entertainer.
So, Alice, your thoughts?
The Hollywood hypocrisy is rampant. Here they are criticizing the president for using foul language, and they talk about F the wall and F this all night long. It's laughable. And let me just make one small correction. Carol, you said young people don't like this president. Young liberals in Hollywood don't like this president because they don't like his policies. But conservatives do appreciate his values. And the reality is, we all know that anyone in Hollywood, if they went up on that stage and said anything about pro-life, pro-traditional marriage, securing the border, they would be blackballed in Hollywood. So this is an environment that claims to be so open-minded, but the reality is that only applies if they're like-minded and support the views and values of liberals in Hollywood. So hypocrisy was on full display as no surprise last night.
I just want to point out the fact that Republicans have now compared the President of the United States with entertainers. That's where we're at. The leader of the free world is now on the same plane and has the same expectations as a comedian. And that's pathetic. I don't hear Republicans complaining when Ted Nugent goes into the White House and says horrific things, when Sarah Palin says horrific things. Let's call it out like it is. The President of the United States should have higher expectations than a comedian, period. It's not complicated.
And Alice, I think you have called out some Republicans for their language in describing certain liberals in our country.
Sure. I think the overall discourse across this country can be heightened across the board, whether we're talking about liberals in Hollywood or Republicans in the White House. And I'll give it to Michael. He's right. We have a reality star television turned president in the White House. And the reality is, people elected him. He campaigned as he is governing. People knew exactly what they were getting, but they wanted something different. They wanted someone who was going to do away with business as usual in Washington, and he won the voice of the people. I quite frankly thought he would grow into the office and be a little bit more respectful of the tone and tenor respected from the White House, but that has not been the case. That being said, the hypocrisy from Hollywood criticizing the president and in return, I think is obvious, and it's not a surprise why many people are turning off those shows because they know exactly what they're going to get.
All right, I want to talk about security clearances for just a moment because, as you know, the president revoked John Brennan's security clearance, and the president had an interesting tweet about that very topic. This is what he tweeted. He said, even James Clapper has admonished John Brennan for having gone totally off the rails. Maybe Clapper is being nice to me so he doesn't lose his security clearance for lying to Congress. So, Michael, that seems to intimate that President Trump really did revoke John Brennan's security clearance because he was admonishing the president.
You know, when it comes to Donald Trump, the only witness we need against Donald Trump is Donald Trump. Every time there's a story, Donald Trump or his handlers go out and say, oh, you know, he didn't fire Comey because of the Russia investigation. He didn't take away a security clearance because Brennan spoke out against him. And then Donald Trump goes in front of the media and says the exact opposite and says he did fire Comey because of the Russia investigation. He did take away Brennan's certification because he spoke out against him. This isn't what a democracy does. This is what a third-rate dictator does. And so I think it's imperative on Democrats and Republicans to both stand up unified and say that we're not going to politicize security clearances. This is a national security issue.
What do you make of that tweet, Alice?
The reality is the president has the right to revoke these clearances anytime he wants to for whatever reason that he wants to. I do think Brennan took it a little bit too far, accusing the president of being treasonous, and there clearly are consequences for that. But for the president to try and flatter any of these members of the intel community thinking that they're going to hold back on their criticism is a pipe dream. And I think many people are going to continue to speak out. They probably do view this as some type of badge of honor if they get their security clearances revoked. But at the end of the day, it's the president's decision who has these clearances and who does not, and he can take them away.
Well, I'm just saying that maybe he should be honest about why he takes them away, because he keeps saying it has to do with national security, and this tweet says to me, maybe not. I want to turn our attention to Melania Trump. She's going to visit Africa, Michael. Yesterday, she was talking about cyberbullying, and she sort of made a very subtle comment that some took as a slam against her husband's tweeting. Is she trolling her husband?
You know, to be honest, I don't know what Melania is doing, but I think this whole, whether she's doing it subliminally or not, Melania needs to come out and just be honest. You know, her president made comments about Africa and their S-hole countries, and now Melania is going to Africa. He made comments about immigrants, and then she went down to the border and visited people. Now's not the time to make subliminal comments. She needs to stand up and be strong in what she says, because, you know, when she goes out of the White House and walks shoulder to shoulder with the president, it sends a mixed message. And these are the times where we don't need mixed messages, we need clarity.
Well, I don't think she's going to provide clarity since she's married to the guy, Alice. What do you know?
That's a choice too.
We need to applaud the fact that she is, in my view, taking children and making them the focus of many of the issues that she stands behind, whether it is for the Be Best campaign, whether it is standing up for LeBron James and the work that he is doing for children, whether it's going down to visit children along the border who are victims of family separation, and now going on this trip to Africa to look at issues that are affecting children across the world. Look, Donald Trump has closed a lot of doors for dialogue. I see this as an opportunity for her to open up doors of dialogue that may not ordinarily be there, and I applaud her for doing this, showing her independence, showing that she can do things that the president may not want to do or cannot do based on previous behavior. And this is a good step. Whether or not the president follows suit with her kindness and generosity remains to be seen, but this is a good step in the right direction for international and global conversations.
I hope you're right. I just hope this isn't a photo op. We don't need more photo ops.
All right, I have to leave it there. Michael, Starr, Hopkins, Alice Stewart, thanks so much. What are the most